Hello, everyone. Welcome to NTI Day 8. Through this point, you should be through scene 10 in Romeo and Juliet, and we're going to start right back up in scene 11. So turn, if you would, to page 14 into the reading there on your computer, or if you're following along on the packet, it would be page 14 in the packet. So in scene 10, Romeo and Juliet have made plans to get married. So in scene 11, it's very short, simple, and to the sweet. Friar Lawrence says, "So smile the heavens upon this holy act, that after hours with sorrow chide us night." They kiss. So basically, just to sum it up, they're married. So they got married, and that's a really weird way to end a marriage, but they're married. So they kiss, and that leads us to scene 12. Now, scene 12 can kind of possibly be seen as the climax of the story. It's the turning point. It's where things get real. You have the new happily married couple. They're happy. They're married, but there's some other things that are going on in the background that are going to cause complications in the marriage. So in scene 12, we have Benvolio and Mercutio that are on the street. And Benvolio says, "I pray you, good Mercutio, let's retire. The day is hot, the capels are abroad, and if we meet, we shall not escape a brawl. By my head, here comes the Capulets." Mercutio responds, "By my heel, I care not." So it's a hot day in Verona. And if you've ever been hot, you know what happens. You become agitated. So when you're hot, you're agitated, you're on edge. Some folks are very hot-headed. They can't control their emotions very well. And these guys are, teenagers. They're late teens. So if you know about late teenage boys, we can be really, hot-headed and not always think clearly. Um, so this is what's going to happen. There's going to be a fight, and spoiler alert, right? There is going to be a fight. So we see Tybalt. Tybalt, if you remember him back at the scene at the party, he warns Lord Capulet that Romeo is in the place, and he wants to take him out. He wants to kill him. He wants to get rid of him right there. So scene 12, Tybalt, "Gentlemen, good evening. A word with one of you, Mercutio, and but one word with one of us, couple it with something. Make it a word and a blow." Tybalt says, "You shall find me apt enough to that, sir. Mercutio, thou consortest with Romeo?" And consort just basically means um, you're meeting up with someone, you're hanging with someone, you're planning something with someone. Mercutio says, "Consort, what does that make us minstrels?" And minstrels, they were people that would go around and sing and tell stories. So Romeo now enters. So here's where it gets interesting. Tybalt, "Well, peace be with you, sir. Here comes my man Romeo. The love I bear thee can afford no better term than this. Thou art a villain." And that's a very key phrase here. He's basically telling him, "You no good, dirty son of a you know what." He's insulting him. He's telling him, "You're a villain. You're a bad person." Romeo responds, "Tybalt, the reason that I have to love thee doth much excuse such a greeting. Villain am I none. Boy, this shall not excuse the injuries thou hast done me. I do protest. I never injured thee." So Tybalt is thinking that Romeo has done something to him. Romeo saying, "Dude, I hadn't done crap to you." He said, "And so, good Capulet, which name I tender as dearly as my own, be satisfied." So Romeo's trying to play the peacemaker. Remember, he's the lover. He's lover boy here. And Tybalt, I don't think understands that Romeo has married Juliet. So here's kind of where the series of unfortunate events really begin to spiral out of control. "Oh, calm, dishonorable, vile submission," Mercutio says, and he draws a sword. "Tybalt, you rat catcher, will you walk?" Tybalt responds, "What wouldst thou have with me? Good king of cats, nothing but one of your 9 lives. I am for you." He draws. So they're both, picture these two guys, they both have their swords drawn. Romeo says, "Gentle Mercutio." They fight. Mercutio is the better swordsman, and Tybalt is struggling to keep up. "Tybalt, Mercutio, the prince expressly hath forbid this. Hold, Tybalt, good Mercutio. This is foreshadowing. Remember what foreshadowing is. Foreshadowing is the preview of coming events. So the prince has forbidden fighting to happen, especially between these two families. I think that occurs somewhere back around scene 1. The prince, who is the governor, the leader of Verona, he sees these two families, and he has made it clear that if they are fighting, that there is going to be some really stiff consequences. So picture this now. Tybalt is under Romeo's arm. So he's got him like basically in a headlock. And he stabs Mercutio. Benvolio says, "Art thou hurt?" And Mercutio responds, I, a scratch, Mary, 'tis enough. I think of the scene in, what is it, Monty Python, the Holy Grail. It's just a flesh wound. But he's saying it's a scratch, it's enough. And Romeo says, "Courage, man, the hurt cannot be much." Mercutio responds, "'Twill serve. Ask for me tomorrow, and you shall find me a grave man. A plague, O both your houses, a plague, O both your houses." So Mercutio basically he's dying. He does die there, you see next. And he says, basically, "I curse you. A curse be on your house, and a curse be on your house." So he's uttering this curse. So Benvolio says, "Here comes Tybalt, alive in triumph, and Mercutio slain. Tybalt, Mercutio's soul is but a little way above our heads, staying for thine to keep him company. Either thou or I or both must go with him." So basically, Romeo is saying, an eye for an eye. We're going to fight this out. I'm going to get you back. Tybalt says, "Thou wretched boy, shout with him hence." Basically saying, you're next. So they fight, and Romeo kills Tybalt. Now, remember, I told you just a second ago that the prince had given this warning that there would be stiff consequences if violence occurs, and that was basically banishment from the kingdom. You're forced to leave. You're not necessarily put in jail. You're not necessarily executed, but you're put into exile. And to be into exile is not a good thing. It means you are kicked out of your hometown, or your home country in this case. Benvolio says, "Romeo, away be gone. The prince will doom thee to death. Hence be gone away." Romeo responds, "Oh, I am fortune's fool." He realizes he's just done messed up. Romeo exits, and then you have the prince, Montague, Capulet, and several others here. So the prince says, "Where are the vile beginners of this fray?" Benvolio says, "There lies the man slain by young Romeo that slew thy kinsman, brave Mercutio." Lady Capulet, "Tybalt, my cousin, O my brother's child, O the blood is spilled of my dear kinsman prince, as thou art true. For blood of ours shed blood of Montague." Romeo spoke him fair. Tybalt, deaf to peace, tilts at bold Mercutio's breast. Romeo, he cries aloud, and twixt them rushes, underneath whose arm Tybalt hit the life of stout Mercutio. So basically, Benvolio saying Romeo tried to break it up. Tybalt refused to listen, and he went ahead and killed Mercutio, and he killed him. So Lady Capulet, "He is a kinsman to the Montague. Affection makes him false. He speaks not true. I beg for justice, which thou, prince, must give. Romeo slew Tybalt. Romeo must not live." So Lady Capulet does not believe Benvolio. We always hear that there are two sides to every story, and facts don't care about your feelings, but the feelings of Lady Capulet, she is so reliant on feelings. She's saying she does not believe Benvolio because he is a Montague. So the prince responds, "For that offense, immediately we do exile him hence. Let Romeo hence in haste, else when he is found, that hour will be his last." So basically, if he doesn't leave, he will be killed. And that leads us to scene 13. So Juliet is in her bedroom, and she is waiting from her nurse. Juliet says, "Come, gentle knight, give me my Romeo. Oh, I have brought the mansion of a love, but not yet possessed it. And though I am sold, not yet enjoyed. So tedious is this day." The nurse enters. "Now, nurse, what news?" She says, "We are undone, lady, we are undone. Alack the day, he's gone, he's killed, he's dead. What devil art thou? Thou dost torment me thus. Hath Romeo slain himself? Tybalt is gone, and Romeo banished. Romeo that killed him, he is banished. Oh God, did Romeo's hand shed Tybalt's blood? Oh serpent heart hid with the flowering face, did ever dragon keep so fair a cave? Oh, that deceit should dwell in such a gorgeous palace. Will you speak well of him that killed your cousin? Notice what Juliet says here. She goes, shall I speak ill of him that is my husband? Tybalt is dead and Romeo banished, that one word banished hath slain 10,000 Tybalts. Oh, find him, give this ring to my true knight, and bid him come to take his last farewell. So basically, what's happened right here is that, the nurse is saying, well, aren't you upset that he killed your cousin? She's like, that's my husband. She goes, the banishment is far worse. Who cares if he would have slain Tybalt 10,000 times? Banishment to Juliet was worse. She's in love with Juliet. And she tells the nurse to find him. So in scene 14, we do find Romeo, and he's now back with Friar Lawrence. And Lawrence says, affliction is enamored of thy parts, and thou art wedded to calamity. And no truer words are spoken in this play than right there. Affliction is enamored of thy parts, and now are wedded to calamity. It seems like one bad event after another. Again, this is foreshadowing. We are previewed again to something that will happen later. Now, spoiler alert, I think you know what happens. Here Romeo says, banishment, be merciful, say death, for exile hath more terror in his look, much more than death. Do not say banishment. This is dear mercy, and thou seest it not. 'Tis torture, not mercy. Heaven is here, where Juliet lives, and every unworthy thing. Live here in heaven and may look on her, but Romeo may not. There's a knocking at the door. Good Romeo, hide thyself. More knocking. Who knocks so hard? Whence came you? What's your will? I come from Lady Juliet. Welcome then. Where is she, and how doth she, and what says my concealed lady to our cancelled love? The nurse says, oh, she says nothing, sir, but weeps and weeps. But here, sir, a ring she bid me give you. Hie you, make haste, for it grows very late. Romeo, how well my comfort is revived by this. Friar Lawrence says, sojourn in Mantua. I'll found out your man, and he shall signify from time to time every good hap to you that chances here. Give me thy hand, 'tis late, farewell, good night, farewell. And that leads us to the last scene, scene 15. Paris and Capulet. Remember, Paris is the one who is originally intended to wed Juliet. And they don't know that she's married to Romeo. So there's another spoiler alert for you. Paris says, these times of woe afford no time to woo. Madame, good night, commend me to your daughter. Capulet says, Sir Paris, I will make a desperate tender of my child's love. I think she will be ruled in all respects by me. Nay, more, I doubt it not. Wife, bid her on Thursday, tell her, she shall be married to this noble earl. So that's where we're going to end this video lecture. We're going to end right there at the end of scene 15. If you want to read ahead, you're more than welcome to find out what happens next. But just a quick recap. When we first started, Romeo and Juliet are married. The very next scene, there's a fight. Mercutio, the cousin of Romeo, is killed, and in turn, Romeo kills Tybalt. The prince decides to banish Romeo, and Juliet finds out the information from her nurse, and Juliet is very concerned for Romeo, as she would for her husband. She gives a ring to the nurse. It says, go find Romeo, and she finds Romeo here in scene 14. The nurse does, gives the ring, and Father Lawrence tells him to go to this place called Mantua. And here we are now in scene 15, where Juliet is to be married now to Paris. So your assignment is to choose one of these 5 scenes and to write just a short paragraph that summarizes the scene. Then I want you to try something else. On Google Classroom, there is a place on there for you to do something called a flip grid. Now, I've never done a flip grid before, so if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the weather's supposed to be nice, so get outside, enjoy it, take a picture and post it on there. I do miss seeing you guys. We will do Zooms, so check at the times on the Google Classroom page there for our Zooms. I'll also send it out in the email and on Remind. I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy being outside.